The darkness was absolute, like being swallowed by a colossal, invisible beast. I could feel the chill seeping into my bones as I stood alone in the eerie silence. The air was thick with a strange metallic scent that seemed to cling to every breath I took. My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to make sense of my surroundings. It had all started when I stumbled upon a cryptic website while browsing the depths of the dark web. The site claimed to be the gateway to a secret society of time travelers. Intrigued and skeptical, I had followed the instructions, which involved performing a series of bizarre rituals and reciting incantations that seemed like they belonged in a witch's cauldron. To my shock, it had worked. I found myself transported to this inky abyss, and I had no idea where or when I was. The website had promised adventures through history, but it hadn't mentioned anything about being trapped in a pitch-black void. My fingers brushed against something cold and solid, and I jumped back with a yelp. My heart raced even faster as I realized that I wasn't alone in this darkness. Something was here with me, lurking in the shadows. I strained my ears, trying to hear any movement, any sign of life. But there was only silence. Hours, or maybe even days, passed in that suffocating darkness. I lost track of time and any sense of reality. My mind began to play tricks on me, conjuring up ghostly whispers and phantom footsteps that echoed in the void. At last, a dim, sickly light pierced through the darkness. It was a flickering, sickly green, casting eerie, shifting shadows on the ground. I approached it cautiously, my steps echoing in the empty space. As I drew closer to the light source, I could see that it was emanating from a twisted, ancient-looking lantern. The flames inside danced with a malevolent energy, casting grotesque shapes on the walls. My trembling hand reached out to touch it, and that's when I heard it. A chilling, inhuman whisper. "Welcome to the past." I spun around, my heart pounding in my chest. But there was no one there, just the disembodied voice echoing through the darkness. Panic clawed at the edges of my mind as I realized that this lantern was my only source of light and my only hope of finding a way out of this nightmare. I gripped the lantern tightly and began to walk, guided only by its eerie green glow. The voice continued to whisper, taunting me with cryptic warnings and promises of horrors yet to come. The walls of the void seemed to shift and warp, taking on the appearance of ancient, decaying ruins. I stumbled upon a crumbling archway, and as I passed through it, the darkness began to recede, replaced by a dim, oppressive twilight. I was no longer alone in this place. Figures moved in the shadows, their forms twisted and grotesque. They whispered to each other in a language I couldn't understand, and their eyes glowed with an unnatural hunger. I pressed on, my heart heavy with dread. The lantern's glow my only defense against the encroaching darkness. The landscape around me continued to change, shifting from one era to another, each more nightmarish than the last. And always, the whispering voices followed, growing louder and more insistent. They spoke of terrible deeds and unspeakable horrors, of timelines torn asunder, and the consequences of meddling with the past. I began to understand that this was no ordinary time travel, but a nightmarish journey through the darkest corners of history. As the voices closed in around me, I realized that there was no escape. I had joined a secret society of time travelers, but now I was trapped in a never-ending nightmare, a prisoner of the past, doomed to wander this twisted, haunted realm for all eternity. The twisted, grotesque figures in the shadows grew bolder with each passing moment, their eyes fixed on me with an insatiable hunger. I clutched the eerie green lantern tightly, its sickly light casting eerie, shifting shadows on their contorted faces. "Who are you? What is this place?" I demanded, my voice quivering with fear. The figures did not respond with words, but instead emitted a guttural, unearthly sound that sent shivers down my spine. Their movements became more erratic, and I realized they were closing in on me. With a surge of panic, I turned and fled, my footsteps echoing through the nightmarish landscape. The whispers of the voices pursued me, their words growing more sinister and taunting. Abandon all hope, time traveler. You should never have meddled with the past. Your fate is sealed, lost in the annals of history. I ran through time, the landscape shifting and morphing around me. I found myself in a desolate, war-torn battlefield where the cries of the dying echoed in the distance. Then I was in a plague-ridden village, the air heavy with the stench of death and decay. The lantern's glow flickered, threatening to extinguish, and I knew that my only source of protection was fading. I couldn't go on like this, endlessly pursued by these malevolent entities from the past. Desperation gnawed at my sanity, and I stumbled upon an ancient, decrepit library. Dusty tomes lined the shelves, and cobwebs clung to the corners. I hoped that somewhere in these forgotten pages, I might find answers or a way to escape this nightmarish ordeal. I opened a crumbling book, its pages brittle with age, and began to read. The text was filled with tales of those who had attempted to manipulate time and suffered dire consequences. It spoke of paradoxes and timelines unraveling, of souls forever trapped in the past, unable to return to their rightful era. As I delved deeper into the text, the lantern's glow intensified, illuminating the pages with an otherworldly brilliance. The figures that had pursued me hesitated at the library's entrance, their grotesque forms recoiling from the light. With newfound determination, I read on, searching for a way to break free from this cursed journey. The text spoke of a ritual, a dangerous and forbidden incantation that could potentially sever the connection to this nightmarish realm. But it came with a warning. Any attempt to tamper with the threads of time was fraught with peril. I had no choice. I couldn't remain trapped here, pursued by the horrors of history. I recited the incantation, my voice trembling with fear and desperation, the words resonating with an ancient power. The world around me trembled and convulsed, as if reality itself were protesting my actions. The figures in the shadows shrieked and writhed, their forms contorting in agony. The lantern's light flared brightly, and then, with a deafening explosion, it shattered into a million shards. I was plunged into darkness once more, the void enveloping me like a suffocating shroud. The whispers of the voices grew distant, fading into nothingness. For a moment, I feared I had made a terrible mistake. Had I severed my only link to the world outside this nightmarish realm? But then, slowly, I felt a sensation of falling, of being pulled through time and space. I closed my eyes, held my breath, and prayed that I would emerge from this ordeal intact. My senses reeled as I plummeted through the abyss, the sensation of endless falling consuming me. I had no way of knowing where, or when, I would emerge from this nightmarish descent. The voices, the figures, the eerie lantern, all of it faded into a distant memory, replaced by the overwhelming uncertainty of what awaited me next. Time seemed to lose all meaning in that dark void, and the boundaries between past, present, and future blurred into a disorienting haze. The sense of dread and anticipation gnawed at my consciousness as I tumbled onward. Then, abruptly, the sensation of falling ceased, and I was thrust into a new reality. I opened my eyes to find myself in a place that was simultaneously familiar and foreign. The dim light of dawn broke through a thick canopy of ancient trees. Dew-covered leaves glistened in the early morning light, and the air was filled with the chirping of birds. I had landed in a dense, primeval forest, and my heart surged with a mix of relief and trepidation. I took a moment to collect myself, checking for any signs of injuries or disorientation. Remarkably, I appeared to be unharmed. As I rose to my feet, the realization struck me that I might finally be free of the nightmarish realm I had been trapped in. But the fear of the unknown still gripped me, and I had no way of knowing where or when I had landed. I cautiously began to explore my surroundings, stepping carefully over gnarled tree roots and navigating through the dense underbrush. The forest felt ancient, untouched by human hands, and the sense of isolation weighed heavily upon me. After what felt like hours of wandering, I came upon a narrow, winding path that seemed to lead deeper into the woods. I followed it, hoping it would lead to some form of civilization or a clue about where or when I had ended up. As I ventured deeper into the forest, the atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive. The once vibrant sounds of nature fell silent, and an eerie stillness settled over the landscape. An unsettling sensation of being watched pricked at my skin, causing me to quicken my pace. The path eventually opened up to reveal a clearing, and in the center of that clearing stood a massive ancient tree. Its trunk was twisted and gnarled, its roots stretching like serpents across the forest floor. But what drew my attention was the sight of strange, intricate markings etched into the tree's bark. Approaching cautiously, I examined the markings and felt a strange familiarity wash over me. They appeared to be symbols and glyphs, reminiscent of the arcane incantations from the nightmarish realm I had escaped. My heart quickened as I realized that I might not have left that realm entirely behind. Before I could react further, a low guttural growl emanated from the shadows at the edge of the clearing. I spun around to confront the source of the sound, and what I saw froze my blood in my veins. Emerging from the depths of the forest were figures, much like the ones I had encountered in the nightmarish realm. Their contorted, grotesque forms moved with an unnatural grace as they closed in on me. The whispers of the voices returned, their words laden with malice. "You cannot escape the past. This is your fate, interloper." With mounting terror, I realized that the horrors of history had followed me here, to this ancient, forgotten realm. I had unwittingly unleashed a malevolent force, one that would haunt me across the ages, relentlessly pursuing me through time and space. Desperation fueled my every move as I considered my options. I could attempt to flee, to escape deeper into the forest, but I knew that the figures would not relent, or I could confront them, trying to unravel the mystery of this cursed tree and the symbols etched into its bark. Either way, I was trapped once again in a nightmarish ordeal, battling against forces beyond my comprehension. My journey through time had become a never-ending nightmare, and there was no turning back. A cold sweat drenched my brow as the grotesque figures closed in, their eerie whispers growing louder and more sinister with each passing moment. The twisted symbols on the ancient tree seemed to pulse with an unholy energy, and I couldn't shake the feeling that they held the key to my salvation, or my doom. With no other option, I took a deep breath, steadied myself, and stepped closer to the ancient tree. The strange symbols etched into its bark appeared to writhe and shift, as if alive. My fingers trembled as I reached out to touch them, and when my skin made contact, a jolt of energy surged through me. Visions flooded my mind, flashes of the nightmarish realm, the flickering lantern, the figures, and the ominous whispers. It was as though the tree itself held the memories of my tormentors. I pulled my hand away, gasping for breath. The figures drew closer, their inhuman forms now just beyond the edge of the clearing. Their eyes glowed with an unearthly hunger, and they seemed to feed on my fear. The whispers became a cacophony, a maddening chorus of torment. As a last resort, I focused on the symbols again, trying to decipher their meaning. They were a language, ancient and arcane, but their significance eluded me. I needed more time, more understanding. With a surge of determination, I spoke aloud, addressing the ancient tree itself. "I demand to know the meaning of these symbols. Tell me how to break free of this curse." The forest responded with a bone-chilling creaking and groaning. The twisted symbols seemed to writhe even more violently, as if trying to convey a message. I strained to understand, to piece together the puzzle they presented. Then it came to me, a revelation that sent a shiver down my spine. The symbols were not just a message. They were a key, a means of manipulating time itself. The nightmarish realm, the figures, the torment, all of it was tied to the power of this ancient tree. My understanding grew, but time was running out. The figures had advanced further, their grotesque forms contorting in anticipation. With newfound determination, I focused on the symbols, willing them to grant me control over time. The forest responded in kind. The ground shook, and the ancient tree's roots surged upward, ensnaring the approaching figures in their gnarled grasp. The figures howled in agony as they were bound by the very essence of time itself. I seized the opportunity and recited the incantation that had revealed itself to me. The world around me trembled, and reality itself seemed to warp and shift. The figures and their eerie whispers were sucked away, vanishing into the depths of history. But I couldn't stop there. The power of the tree was now at my command, and I needed to use it to escape this cursed realm once and for all. I focused all my will on returning to my own time, to the present day. Time itself became a whirlwind, a maelstrom of chaos and energy. The forest, the ancient tree, and the symbols all merged into a swirling vortex. I felt myself being pulled, stretched, and twisted, as if I were a thread in the fabric of the universe. Then, with a blinding flash, I was back. I stood in a familiar modern-day setting, the darkness and the nightmarish realm behind me. The ancient tree, the symbols, and the cursed figures were gone. But I knew that the ordeal was not over. The consequences of my actions, the meddling with time itself, would surely haunt me. I had escaped the nightmarish realm, but at what cost? As I stood there, catching my breath, I couldn't help but wonder if I had truly broken free of the past, or if I had merely unlocked a new chapter in the never-ending horror story of time itself. The whispers of the voices lingered in the back of my mind, a haunting reminder that some secrets are best left buried in the annals of history. The return to my own time was marked by a disorienting sense of displacement. I stumbled, my legs giving way as I struggled to regain my balance. The world around me spun, a dizzying whirlwind of sights and sounds. As my senses gradually settled, I realized that I was back in the familiar present, surrounded by the trappings of modern life. The street lamps cast their warm glow on the sidewalk, and the distant hum of traffic filled the air. It was a stark contrast to the nightmarish realm I had just escaped, a reminder that the past was behind me, or so I hoped. Despite my return to the present, the echoes of my harrowing journey through time still reverberated in my mind. The haunting whispers of the figures, the eerie symbols on the ancient tree, and the unnerving power I had harnessed were all too real. I couldn't simply brush off the horrors I had witnessed. With trembling hands, I reached into my pocket and pulled out the broken remnants of the eerie green lantern that had guided me through the nightmarish realm. Its pieces were jagged and sharp, a grim reminder of the torment I had endured. I considered disposing of them, but something compelled me to keep them as a tangible link to the past, no matter how dark and twisted that past had been. As days turned into weeks, I tried to return to a semblance of normalcy. I resumed my daily routine, going to work, interacting with friends and family, and attempting to forget the horrors I had witnessed. But the memories of the nightmarish realm lingered, like a shadow that refused to be cast aside. I became consumed by a relentless obsession, driven to uncover the truth behind the cursed tree and the symbols that had granted me control over time. Late at night, I would pore over books and manuscripts, searching for any reference to such an entity. My quest for knowledge led me down a dark and treacherous path as I delved into the forbidden and the arcane. It was during one of these late-night research sessions that I stumbled upon a name that sent a chill down my spine. The ancient tree was known as the Elder Tree, a relic from a forgotten age, said to hold the secrets of time itself. The symbols etched into its bark were known as the Chronomancer's runes, and they were believed to grant control over the fabric of reality. The more I learned, the more I realized the gravity of my actions. I had unwittingly tapped into a power beyond human comprehension, a power that had drawn the attention of malevolent forces from across the ages. The figures that had pursued me were not mere phantoms, but guardians of the Elder Tree, protectors of its secrets. With a sinking feeling, I understood that I had unleashed something ancient and powerful, something that transcended the boundaries of time. The nightmarish realm I had escaped was merely a glimpse into the depths of a cosmic horror that defied human understanding. Haunted by my actions and the relentless pursuit of the past, I resolved to find a way to rectify my mistake. I would return to the Elder Tree, confront the Guardians, and seek a way to seal the rift in time that I had inadvertently created. The days that followed were filled with preparation and dread. I armed myself with knowledge of the Chronomancer's runes, hoping that understanding their true nature would grant me an advantage in the impending confrontation. I knew the risks were immense and the outcome uncertain, but I could not rest until I had put an end to the nightmarish ordeal that had consumed my life. As I set out on this perilous journey, I couldn't help but wonder if I was fated to be forever entwined with the horrors of history, or if I could find a way to break free from the relentless grip of time itself. The Elder Tree stood before me once again, its gnarled and ancient form commanding the center of the clearing. The haunting whispers of the figures from the nightmarish realm were absent, replaced by an eerie silence that seemed to hang heavily in the air. With the knowledge I had gained, I approached the tree, my heart pounding in my chest. The symbols etched into its bark seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly energy, and I knew that I had to proceed with caution. I began to decipher the symbols, tracing their intricate patterns with my fingers. As I did, the forest around me seemed to shift and warp, as though reality itself were responding to my actions. The air crackled with an arcane energy, and the tree's branches creaked and groaned. Then, as if summoned by my efforts, the guardians of the Elder Tree emerged from the shadows. Their grotesque forms materialized, their eyes glowing with an intense, otherworldly light. They moved with a slow, deliberate grace, their intentions clear. "You have returned, interloper," one of them hissed, its voice a chilling echo of the whispers I had heard in the nightmarish realm. I nodded, my determination unwavering. "I have returned to right the wrongs I've committed. I seek to seal the rift in time that I created." The Guardians regarded me with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. They had witnessed my previous actions and knew the extent of my power, but they also understood the danger posed by the rift in time, a tear in the fabric of reality itself. With a slow, deliberate motion, one of the Guardians extended a twisted, gnarled hand toward the Elder Tree. The tree responded, its roots writhing and shifting, as though it were granting permission for me to proceed. I returned my focus to the symbols, using the knowledge I had gained to manipulate time once more. The Guardians watched intently, their eyes never leaving me. The air grew heavy with anticipation, and I felt a powerful energy building within me. As I recited the incantation, the world around me trembled, and the symbols on the Elder Tree's bark glowed with a blinding intensity. The rift in time began to close, its maw shrinking until it was a mere shimmering thread, barely visible to the naked eye. The Guardians moved closer, their forms twisting and contorting, as though they were being pulled into the rift. I realized that their existence was tied to the Elder Tree and the rift itself. Closing the tear in time would mean their dissolution, a sacrifice they were willing to make to protect the fabric of reality. With a final surge of power, I sealed the rift in time, and it vanished, leaving behind no trace of its existence. The Guardians let out a haunting, otherworldly wail, their forms dissolving into mist and dispersing into the air. The Elder Tree itself seemed to sigh with relief, its branches settling into a state of stillness. The forest around me returned to a sense of normalcy, and the eerie silence lifted. I stood there, panting and exhausted, my mission accomplished. I had corrected the mistake I had made, and in doing so, I had redeemed myself and protected the very fabric of reality from further harm. But as I turned away from the Elder Tree, I couldn't help but wonder if this was truly the end of my journey. The power of the Chronomancer's runes, the secrets of the Elder Tree, and the horrors of time itself were mysteries that transcended mortal comprehension. As I walked away from the clearing, the forest seemed to whisper secrets to me, ancient and arcane, promising that the past was not so easily forgotten. The darkness of history would forever be a part of me, a reminder that some secrets were never meant to be unearthed. And so, I left that place with a heavy heart, haunted by the knowledge that the horrors of time would continue to linger on the fringes of reality, waiting for the next interloper to stumble upon their malevolent secrets. My journey had come full circle, but the true extent of the horror story of time itself would remain a mystery, lurking just out of reach, in the shadows of history.